Hello! Today for review I've got a really unusual model. As you can probably see, I even don't have a retail box for this in-ear monitors. But it is a really interesting new model I want to show to you and to describe. It is made by MEE Audio, and as you can easily probably guess right now, it's their new model with unusual driver that they've called Planamic. So it's a mix of planar driver and dynamic driver. I will try to describe driver a bit later. I want to say that my reviewer's career started many years ago from MEE Audio in-ear monitors. They've got few interesting models at that time and I reviewed them for some Russian site, and it was the beginning of beautiful friendship. So, and since then I'm always looking forward new models they've announced, and when I've seen the announce of this model on the mass drop, I was really interested because I really wanted to try this new driver. But I don't have any contacts with mass drop. They don't even deliver to the country where I live now, so I contacted Michael from MEE Audio directly, and he was kind enough to prepare a pre-production sample for me. So there is no retail package and it's not full accessory set, but it's the same pair that will be delivered. As far as I remember, the first pre-orders batch on mass drop is over, but I think there will be more to come in future. So if you will be interested after this review, you can register or login at the mass drop, and you can hit request drop button and you will be notified when next batch will be ready. But now let's have a closer look. As I've said before, I don't have a retail box. Also, I don't have additional pair of comply forms. There will be a lot of these tips in the accessory set for those who will purchase them from the mass drop. But besides that, all other accessory sets are similar, if I remember right. So here is IEMs themselves. I already damaged the package, this small package, but anyway, so one cable. Also you will have second cable with talk controls, but I don't see much reason in this, because you know the sensitivity of those is 93 decibels with 16 ohms load. It's a really tough load that requires really powerful source to drive. And also you will have this case, additional clip, and some tips. So my set is smaller than the retail one. Some single flange and double flange silicones, and also you will have complies. Anyway, as you can see, accessory set is pretty good for this price range. If I remember right, the price is $130 on the mass drop, and I say that it's a really nice price, even considering modern Chinese market. Build quality is also nice. It's nothing super fancy, but actually really good for this price range. Cases are made of plastic. There are two versions, glossy black one and also glossy deep blue, but mine are black and I think they are looking really nice. They have good ergonomic shape, and I like this seamless build, because there is no traces of glue where the halves of the case are attached. It's interesting effect of like these earphones were built around the driver without any connections, without gluing and so on. Shape is ergonomic. They are designed to be worn over the ear, and they fit nicely, very nicely, at least to my ears. I can't speak about everyone's ears. They have pretty long spouts with long nozzle with lip, so they providing above the average sound isolation, especially if you will use the double flange tips, and pretty good wearing comfort even during the long periods of time. There is protective grill glued here, so no dust or particles will fall inside. X logo, it's typical, mass drop is marking their models with X. Recessed sockets used here, regular 2 pins with pretty big connectors, so providing really reliable a really good fit and reliable connection. So they are normal in terms of disconnection. You don't have to pull it with some super force, but they won't fall off easily. So pretty good balance of holding force for the connection. Let me put tip back probably. So here they are. Cables are basic, but they are done really nicely. There is ear hook formed, no memory wire effect, but they are staying beside you, above your ears easily, providing good secure hold of earphones on their position. Cable is pretty thick. It's getting a bit hard when it's cold outside, but there is almost zero microphonic effect, especially with over-the-ear wearing, and it's not easy to tangle, and at least at the first look it seems to be really reliable. Here is splitter. Of course there is no soldering inside, because here it goes simply braided all cables way down below to the splitter. There is a chin slider, but I don't think you will need it. Goes way down below to this angled connector, so everything is done, you know, in this simplistic and minimalistic way of doing things, typical for the MEE Audio, because they are really trying to offer the best possible quality. But anyway, I'm not sure how they will behave after a year of usage, but usually MEE Audio providing good quality, and they are really good in fulfilling their warranty to fulfill the warranty expectations. So I think they are reliable and probably stylish and very comfortable. So what are those Planamic drivers? Actually, depending on your point of view, you can consider them as a regular dynamic driver, or you can consider them as a single-sided magnet planar driver. So it's a flat diaphragm inside of these speakers, of these earphones, and on this flat diaphragm glued voice coil. I don't know the configuration, but I think it's some meander, maybe some spiral or something like that. And from one side they have magnet system. So when the modulated signal is applied to this coil, appears magnetic field, and this magnetic field interferes with this stationary magnet, and we have the movement, and we have the sound. On Mass Drop you can find additional diagram of this driver, but I think you can easily guess this idea even with my poor English description. So I can't say that it's definitely planars or that's definitely not planars. I think that's why they actually are called Planamic. But according to measurements, they got one signature feature of planar drivers. Typical for full-size planar drivers, they are present here. They have really low harmonic distortions. On the whole spectrum, distortion is below 0.1%. For IEMs, I can say that it's a really nice figure, and it's noticeable in sound. So, as I've mentioned before, they are really hard to drive, because 93 decibels and 16 ohms require a lot of driving power, and actually not only power but current. And luckily this time I've got the player that is not only can drive them properly because it has enough power, but also it really compensates their own signature and providing really good pairing. So here it is. It's a limited version of iBasso DX200. They created a limited version made of Titan or Titan. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. In Russian it's Titan. And besides changed case, nice polished metal, they decided to make it as detailed and as possible, and sometimes it sounds even a bit above the acceptable level of brightness, at least for me, but with It's the price you pay for the maximum level of detailization. And with these earphones it really shines. Actually, I can say in advance, probably those are not universal model, because they are really superb in some aspects and not as good in other aspects, but let's describe them step by step. The strongest and the best, the most signature and the definitive feature of those are low frequencies. Bass here is probably maybe one of the best, or the best that I've heard in the, at least at below $1,000 range, and actually in the above $1,000 range it's still pretty competitive, because you know it's really they really managed to create the sound that is fitting my subjective tastes, and it's perfect balance of detailization, resolution, and weight and impact. They've got really good depth if your source can allow it to hear great level of rumble of this attacks, mass, texturing, everything probably. You know, it's one of the most realistic basses. I don't know what is the plural of bass. It's really realistic one actually. So as usual example, I've prepared this track. It's Pain of Salvation, one of the best albums created in the history of heavy metal, at least for me. In the passing light of day, I can really recommend you, even if you don't listen to the metal, I think it's still acceptable recording to listen and to enjoy. And they have got a really blowing track called Meaningless, with interesting unusual intro and with crushing drums that appears after I don't know 15 or 12 seconds. And you know, this is when I first tried to listen to this track with these earphones, I was really blown, because you know it's I've got total sense that I'm sitting right beside those drums, those, you know, sometimes I'm missing some words, how I call those bass drums that are kicked by foot. So I'm sitting beside these drums and I hear all these kicks, all these punches, and I hear all single nuance. I can definitely hear how the skin on the drums is vibrating, how the sticks are hitting these drums. So it's really great sense of realism. And I listen some classical music with acoustic bass, with low notes of fortepiano, some organ music. Everything sounds really impressive and realistic when you got some big amounts of massive and naturally good recorded bass. These IEMs are really shine. Mids are also pretty nice. They are, you know, they can be described by some words. They just play as the way they are recorded. They are not super sharp, how it can sometimes appear with some balanced armatures, but they've got great resolution, pretty good attacks and decays. You've got nice level of emotions. If you look at the frequency response of these earphones, it's available on the mass drop. It's going almost flat with a slight peak at the 4 kHz, and it's perfect tuning for those who want natural representation, with who want to hear everything that is present in the recording without any coloration, without any additional emotions, without, you know, going too nitpicky or too analytical. And this peak on the 4 kHz actually does its job pretty good. It's highlighting female vocals, and they sound really crisp and really enjoyable. As an example of mid frequencies, what I've got, yep, pretty maybe not super surprising track, but it's Billy Idol, Rebel Yell, really good synthesizers with pretty normal level of recording and with all the spacious effects of the 80s, and really good portion of nostalgia, and those earphones are playing this with ease. But of course it's pretty expectable. Well, I think almost every single earphones can play Billy Idol, so this track is not something that I'm using for critical listening. It's more just an illustration of some of my ideas or some portion of nostalgia. Maybe I think you maybe want to release in Rebel Yell once again. It's pretty worth a track. And of course, probably weakest part here, it's a flow, maybe not a flow, maybe it's a feature, but anyway, treble here is strongly recessed right after this peak of 4 kHz. They've got about 25 decibels of drop, so almost zero, maybe not zero, but very noticeable treble drop here. I don't know why it happened this way. Was it tuned this way on purpose, or it's just a limitation of this driver? I suppose that in some future MEE Audio will overcome this limitation and will extend this driver, or maybe they will create some hybrid model. I think adding some balanced armatures to this dynamic driver will give stunning effect versus some flagship models. But treble is recessed. It actually, when it's present and when it has good resolution, when it's not shadowed by mids and lows, it has good resolution, because good resolution is one of the signature features of these IEMs. Exceptionally good resolution for the inexpensive dynamic driver. Of course, it's not like some $1,000 balanced armatures, but pretty nice sound anyway. So treble, when it's present, it's normal with good attacks, decays, and even with basic layering, but this drop just makes them sound sometimes lacking air, sometimes lacking too dull. So it's not universal models. As an illustration, let me show. So in the steppes of Central Asia, it's a great classical masterpiece created by Borodin, nice tune, really nicely recorded by the Göteborg Symphony Orchestra. I really like this recording. Actually, if you are looking for the good recording of Tchaikovsky 1812, I also can recommend you this recording. So anyway, in the steppes of the Central Asia, it's a good example. If if this drop won't be that big, it would be definitely model that is a giant killer in this price range. But anyway, still MEE Audio created really competitive model. It's not probably a model to have as a single model in your collection, but as a second pair in your collection for some styles and genres of music. It's a definitely brilliant IEMs. I won't do any comparisons this time, because it's a really unique model from one point of view and really specific from other point of view. I won't do any comparisons because I don't see any sense in that, because only on the mids they can be compared, because on lows they're beating everything in this price range and even in the above lying price ranges, and on the treble they are failing almost compared with all other models. But from other point of view, actually recessed treble is better than than artificial distorted treble of some cheap Chinese models. So to summarize everything, MEE Audio created really interesting model with drivers that has great potential, and I think they will gather their popularity, they will gather their fans, and I think in future we'll see some hybrid models with this driver or something like that. So thank you for attention, and see you with next reviews, because I've got a lot of other interesting stuff.